You ever have someone show up at your door and, without even saying hello, tell you you're trespassing on your own land and she's calling the sheriff? Yeah, that happened to me. First morning in my, not just to the cabin, but to the ocean itself. Like she'd bought it with her own money or something. The truth is, I'd paid cash for that old fishing cabin, $85,000. Every cent I had left after my marriage went sideways and my ex got the house in Portland. All I got was some old furniture and a check that wouldn't even pay for a halfway decent truck, let alone a fresh start. So I took a gamble on a place that looked like it had barely survived the last century, sitting right on the edge of the world, with a deed dated 1943. Real paper, real ink. She had no clue what that old deed meant, or what was about to happen when the feds started poking around. But let me back up a sec. First time I drove up, the air smelled like salt and kelp. Kinda rotten, if I'm honest. And that cabin looked like a haunted postcard. Weathered gray wood, tin roof rusted all the way through, a dock barely hanging on, like the whole thing was waiting for one more storm to finish the job. But the view, God, the view, was worth every penny and then some. You ever see sunlight breaking across open water, the world turning gold? That's what I bought. My name's Wade Harmon. By the way, 53, carpenter, retired in spirit if not by age, stubborn as hell. The woman who sold it to me, Mavis Collier, was 77 and just about as worn by the wind as that cabin. Her husband built the place in 43. 3 generations lived here, raised kids, buried dogs, watched the tides come and go. She handed me a battered tin box full of paperwork, old photos, hand-drawn maps, stuff you can't fake, stuff that tells a story. She said, "This land's yours now, son." And then she drove away, not looking back once. The cabin was 2 rooms and a kitchenette with a wood stove that looked older than me. Bare walls, floor that creaked but held solid. Air so full of possibility, I could almost forget everything I'd lost. That first night, I sat at the little table and started going through the box. Yellowed deeds, scribbled maps, pictures of men in overalls and women holding babies on a porch that was still standing, somehow. There was a phrase in the, but it felt like a clue I'd want later. I made a list, replaced the roof, fixed the dock, maybe solar if I could swing it. I could do most of it myself, but some of it, I'd need a hand. So, for the first time in a long time, I had a plan, a reason to get up in the morning. The next day, I walked down to the water. No fence, just a path through the dunes. The tide was low, sand shining like a mirror, gulls screaming overhead, and I just stood there breathing it in, alone but not lonely, not yet. I noticed, way off, a cluster of white houses, identical, neat as pins. Up on a bluff, a big white fence, sign out front, Sea View Estates, private community. Lexus parked by the gate, someone watching from a distance, clipboard in hand. I shrugged it off, half a mile away. What did I care? Shows how little I knew. That evening, I sat on my porch, watched the sun dip behind the ocean, felt like I'd finally bought a piece of peace. I didn't know that night was the pink blazer sharp enough to cut glass. She looked me up and down like I was something she'd scrape off her shoe. "Good morning. I'm Brenda Ashcraft, president of the Sea View Homeowners Association." Didn't even ask my name. Guess she'd already checked. "There's confusion about property boundaries and beach access," she said. "Your cabin falls within our HOA covenant. It's been private since 1998. You'll need to stop using the beach and remove all construction materials from common areas." Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I do know how to read. I pulled out my deed, Parcel 14A, including riparian access and rights to adjacent tide lands. "That means I can use the water." She just smiled. "Laws change," she said, "and the HOA takes priority here." She handed me a violation notice, said I had 72 hours to comply, or else they'd take legal action. 20 minutes after she left, the sheriff showed up, Deputy Hollis, tired eyes, gut hanging over his belt. Said he got a call about trespassing and unpermitted construction. He looked around, didn't see anything wrong, shrugged, told me to get a lawyer and work it out with the county. "Just be careful," he added. "That HOA's not known for playing fair." That was the start. I dug into the paperwork. Every word on that deed, suddenly life or death. Federal easement under the Rivers and Harbors Act, that stuck with me. I spent nights researching property law, coastal access, HOAs, riparian rights. The more I read, the more I realized the truth was muddy as the tide. But that federal easement, that was a thread I could pull. Then it got dirty. The HOA filed an objection with the county, put a flag on my parcel. No permits, no repairs, nothing until I resolved it with them. They sent an email to the whole community, 200 people, about an unauthorized construction site, threatening property values. Suddenly, contractors wouldn't touch my project. My cabin's photo popped up online, eyesore, and trespasser in the comments. Brenda wasn't just fighting me with rules. She was painting me as the villain, and the whole town bought it. One morning, I woke up to a smashed window, spray-painted "Go Home" on the wall, and a rock in the middle of my floor. The deputy came back, took a report, but with no witnesses or cameras, nothing would happen. Not officially, anyway. Then a man I'd never seen rolled up in a silver sedan, said he was an investor, offering to buy me out at 20% above market. People who don't fit in, it's not safe, he told me. I told him to shove it. So I started fighting back my way. Security cameras, voice recorders, motion lights. I recorded everything. Contractor cancellations, vandalism, every word Brenda said when. She thought I wasn't listening. One night, I caught two masked guys, one in a sea view security jacket, cutting my lights, pouring paint on my lumber. Proof. Then Brenda showed up with her board, too. More, talking just outside audio range. But I had the recorder planted in the toolbox on my porch. If we can't scare him off, we'll have to bury him in legal fees, she said. It's not about the cabin. It's about control. I saved the audio, saved the video, put it all together, and called a lawyer. Laura Brennan, property rights specialist, sharp, focused, not impressed by bullies. She looked at my evidence and said, "You've got harassment, tortious interference, conspiracy, trespass, defamation. That audio is gold." We filed suit, and she filed for a restraining order, too. The judge granted it after hearing Brenda's own words played in open court. But the real twist? That federal easement in the deed. I finally tracked it down, Federal Aid Project marker from 1961, meaning the beach wasn't private, never had been. It was public land, protected by law. The HOA had been charging fees for 26 years, pocketing over $1 million for beach access they didn't own. Laura called the National Park Service. They confirmed it, sent the case to the U.S. attorney. Suddenly, it wasn't just me versus Brenda anymore. It was the federal government versus fraud. Subpoenas flew, records got pulled, and agents started asking questions. Brenda was arrested on a Tuesday morning. Federal property conversion, mail fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy. News vans on her street, neighbors peeking out their windows, the whole 9 yards. You know what I mean? One day, you're holding the clipboard, and the next, you're the headline. Civil trial, jury verdict, HOA and Brenda liable for harassment, defamation, the whole list. Nearly $700,000 in damages. Brenda sat there stone-faced, lawyer whispering in her ear. The HOA? Bankrupt. The beach? Finally, open. New signs went up, public access, federal land, open to all. For the first time in decades, families came back, old-timers fished off the dock, kids built sandcastles where they'd once been chased away. Even the people who'd turned on me. Some apologized, some just avoided eye contact. One woman, around 50, told me, "I believed everything Brenda said. I should have asked questions." I told her, "You trusted the wrong person, but that's not a crime." Maybe it is, though, in its own quiet way. We had a barbecue on the beach. First time in years the whole community mixed. No fences, no clipboards. People asked if they could fish off my dock. I said sure, the water belongs to everyone. That's the way it's supposed to be. One guy, sitting next to me by the fire, said, "You changed everything." I just shook my head. All I did was ask questions. The law did the rest. In the end, Brenda tried to control the ocean. That's what this was all about, right? Not money, not property, control. But the thing about power is, you only have it if people let you. And sometimes all it takes is one stubborn person who refuses to back down, and the whole rotten thing comes crashing down. So here's what I learned. You can try to run, try to hide from what went wrong in your life, but sometimes you end up in exactly the place you need to stand your ground. 8 months ago, I came here to disappear. Now I've got a rebuilt cabin, a deed on the wall, a a federal survey map that saved me, and a beach open to anyone who wants it. Not because I was strong, but because I was too damn stubborn to give up. You tell me, was that justice? Or was it just luck, a piece of old concrete forgotten in the sand, waiting for someone to care enough to find it? Drop a comment below. Was Brenda a villain or just a product of a broken system? Ever had to fight for what's right, even when everyone else said you were wrong? I want to hear your stories. And if you know someone who loves a wild plot twist, go on, share this with them. Because sometimes, the truth is the best revenge of all.